Okay, what's up guys? I wanted to make a slightly different kind of video than I have been doing. More so just giving my argument on something I don't feel as definitively as the other things I talk about. So it's kind of how you approach powerlifting and strength training, and me advocating for like the old school approach to it. So if you're getting into powerlifting, there's almost two separate games you can play with it, right? The first one is capping your body weight at a fixed weight class for extended periods of time. That is not how, when I was getting into this, that wasn't really a thing yet, and it was the old school approach of, okay, our goal is to lift as much weight as possible as a person, not within a weight class. So across your career, as you accrue more and more lean muscle tissue, you're going to go up weight classes so that your personal total can keep rising and you kind of see where you top out. Maybe there's considerations where you don't want to get fat, so that muscle gain is a slower and slower process. So if you're a natural guy, that would look like maybe starting your career down at like 150 pounds, eventually you climb to 200. I know you don't think of yourself as a 200-pound person, and those are people who are just born bigger than you, but if you take a very long time accruing muscle mass and letting your body grow as it wants to, as the demands you place on it get higher and higher, maybe you started at 150 and you did your first meet, whatever class is down there, right? 5-10 years into this, you might be a 200-pound guy with a similar-ish body composition. Allowing yourself to grow, in my opinion, keeps the sport more interesting, right? You don't hit these ridiculous levels of plateaus, because if you're allowing your body weight to climb with time to a point, you're really prolonging out how long before you see that advanced plateau, because you know you might have been getting advanced for a 165-pound guy, but you're not advanced for a 185-pound guy, and so there's more almost beginner gains to capitalize on, right? That's kind of how it was when I got into it. There was guys who took that too far, who just tried to go up as many weight classes as quickly as they could, and just did it poorly and put it on in mostly adipose tissue, right? So in my opinion, that was an extreme swing in the other way. I don't think that's the approach I would advocate. Growing at a rate that you can predominantly put on more and more lean tissue is probably the better way to approach it, even if your end goal is the same, right? So if you have a guy who's 200 pounds, he's like, I want to total as much as I fucking can. If he just dreamer bulks to 300, right? Chances are 5 years down the line, he will not be any stronger than the guy who gradually gained to 300 in, like, basically the guy who bulked to 300 really quick would see a huge spurt of progress and then would slow, whereas the guy who is climbing his weight along with his total would probably see a smoother path, and I don't think one would get there faster than the other. So generally speaking, I don't think going up weight classes as fast as possible is the option either. But that's kind of how I was introduced to the sport, was weight classes are something you gradually climb as your body accrues more and more lean tissue as a byproduct of your training or as a purpose of your training, right? Like I've always said, I know to do the lifts that I want to do, I need to be operating a bigger machine, right? And I've gone from about 160 pounds when I started lifting to 250 pounds, and I still feel I'm far, far too small. A little bit less than 250, but it sounds nice. So basically that's kind of what the sport was to me. And I really like that, and I like showing people that, because I think nowadays a lot of people who are newer to the sport haven't been presented that way. I have absolutely no problem with the people who want to play I want to be competitive at this weight. I came into the sport at this weight. I want to be the best in the world at this weight. My weight isn't something that changes with the sport. That's because, like, I have nothing wrong with that. That is a perfectly cool hobby. It's like I really look up to guys like that who are just basically, what they're doing is they are optimizing a finite resource. They only have so much muscle, they've got X to work with, and they're just like really, really shining that and getting it better and better and better, and like focusing on really minute details just to get a little bit of extra progress, right? Because when you can't just get a bigger and bigger machine, you really have to dial things in. Whereas, and I think that's really cool. I have absolutely no qualm with that. I just want to make sure people are aware of the other way of doing it, right? The way I personally enjoy more, right? So rather than really honing in what I have, there's a base that is somewhat fixed, and maybe I can add, like, within my weight class, say I'm kind of chubby, but I'm at my weight class, I can add a little bit more lean tissue, but we're looking at like maybe 5 pounds more before you're at a good body composition in that weight class, and then you're not building a larger hypertrophy base, you're really just seeing how much you can express at that base and comparing it to other people with the same size base. That is cool. I have zero problem with that. I used to be like, oh, this is stupid. You know, it's kind of just not the camp I came up in. But that being said, like, I can admire that. And then, like, eventually, sometimes that's like changing a weight class to people like that is a very different thing than it is to the people who are trying to grow their base, right? Changing your weight class when you grow your base is, my base is past that weight. You know, that's all it is. That's kind of how Ed Cohn did, is he climbed with, when as soon as it was like a little hard to make one, he would just go to the next one, rather than continually make the same weight class as it gets harder and harder, and then reluctantly 5 years later go up one and spend time getting more relevant there. I understand the fear of losing your standings, but in my opinion, people who are afraid of going up weight classes early in their career are just being short-sighted, right? I think that if you allow yourself to fill out your leverages and grow as you need to, and end up in a weight class, because if you look, the guys at the who are the best in each weight class are relatively shorter than you'd think. If you're the tallest guy in your weight class, or if you're taller than all the guys at the highest level in your weight class, you're probably not in that end result weight class, right? So even the guys in the like IPF who are at lighter weights, like most of them are shorter. They're still wide people. It's few and far between that you see a genuinely skinny high-level powerlifter. They absolutely exist, but it's pretty few and far between if we're looking at the majority. We should always look to the majority, not the exception. But I have no problem with that approach at all. I just really worry, yeah, that people were not presented with the way that I learned to do it, and I've really enjoyed that, and I haven't hit the same leveling offs in progress that really burn a lot of people out on the sport. You know, 5 years in, you're looking at more marginal progress, especially if you're a natural guy, unless you're going up weight classes. And like I said, then you're going to be like, I was advanced to 220 pounds, but I gained a bunch of weight, and now I'm not that good of a 250-pound guy. But that will come with time, and I'm confident in that. And then I'll go up weight when I feel I'm plateauing out at 250. So, I don't know, I just kind of wanted to put it out there, and I really wanted to stress my opinion that I have no ill will or disrespect to anyone who does it the other way. I think it's perfectly valid, and if you think that's cool, like, it's the same thing as just kind of looking at the lighter weight classes in Olympic lifting. You are looking at guys just finally polishing something that, just to see if they can get a little bit ahead of a guy finally polishing a very similar thing. There's something very, very admirable about that. But I like the idea of growing my base alongside like my level, if that makes sense. And so, I don't know, I hope that maybe this is someone's first time hearing this, and they kind of have a better insight into how they want to approach their training career.